Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show on this Monday, September 24th, 2012. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, sitting in for Alex today. He will be back with you tomorrow, and in the meantime, we've got a whirlwind of breaking news from all fronts and some very interesting guests coming up on today's show. We'll be with you for the next 3 hours, and here's some of what's coming up, and then we're going to get right into the news. We've got guests joining us today, Stacy Malkan from Proposition 37 in California. That is the proposition that is attempting to require GMOs to be labeled on foods so that consumers can choose not to eat poison. Yes, wouldn't that be a nice choice to have? But of course, the food industry is lining up against that proposition, and we'll talk about whether that's likely to pass. And then we've got Anthony Gucciardi from Natural Society joining us today with some breaking news from scientists who support GMOs. Yes, they've sent us emails now that say they know GMOs are killing you. That's what they want. That's the goal. And this is openly admitted by a member of the scientific community. We'll have that email and those details breaking right here on the Alex Jones Show in the second hour today. Then in the third hour, Ted Anderson is going to be dropping by just for a bit. And then after that, we're going to get into how to protect yourself from radiation poisoning in case Fukushima gets worse or in case there's another nuclear disaster somewhere in the world, which could happen. Lots of causes behind it, so we'll get into that. Also, how to protect yourself from MSG. Yeah, monosodium glutamate, also sometimes in the form of free glutamate in your foods. It's an excitotoxin. You've heard guests like Dr. Russell Blaylock, a neurosurgeon, right here on the Alex Jones Show, talking about the toxicity of MSG, but no one's ever been able to really describe how to protect yourself from MSG. But some interesting new research has come out that I'm going to cover in the third hour that has a lot of promise for how to protect yourself from MSG with a supplement, and we'll talk about that. Plus, also today, we've got news about motorists being detained for paying cash at toll booths. Yeah, cash is now something that makes you a criminal. We've got children, a young girl, I think 8 years old, with ovarian cancer. News about painkillers causing headaches. So it's a cycle of addiction. Once you take the painkiller, you get a headache, you need more painkillers. Gee, I wonder who designed that system. Big Pharma, maybe? We've got news about a new desktop fabrication machine, a desktop replicator that can actually produce physical objects just like printing out pages on a bubble jet printer. It's just been announced, and I'm going to talk to you, share with you some of the implications of that technology and what it means for our economy and our world. It's a bigger deal than you might suspect just from hearing the headline. UK hospitals are on the verge, of collapse as socialized medicine fails. Prescription painkillers are now killing more Americans than heroin and cocaine combined. Yeah, prescription drugs are the big killers. And by the way, I'm just breezing through these right now. We'll get these in more detail when we return on the other side of the break that's coming up. Attack of the drones. The U.S. Army wants miniature suicidal drones, kamikaze drones. They're single-use drones that can kill you from 6 miles away. They launch those suckers and just drive them right into your front door or bedroom window, whatever the target happens to be. Here's some news. You know the warrantless DNA collection that's been going on in the police state here? The court of California is now going to reconsider whether that is allowed based on new findings that say there's no such thing as junk DNA. Most of your DNA has been described as, quote, junk DNA, but it turns out that DNA may be able to describe traits, and they can learn a lot of things about you by collecting that DNA without using a warrant. So that's being challenged. In New Jersey, there are attempts to strip parental rights over vaccine exemptions. They don't want you to have a choice. They don't want you to be able to say no. And we got the morning after pills being given out to students without parents' consent. All of that news and a lot more, plus the guests, straight ahead right here on the Alex Jones Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, it is Monday, September 24th, 2012. Thank you for joining the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. And for the next 3 hours, we are going to present a whirlwind of news and guests, interviews, plus your calls in the third hour as well. So if you've got calls for me, get them ready. We'll take your calls in the third hour on just about any topic that you'd like to talk about. In the meantime, here's what's coming up today. We've got Stacy Malkan, a spokesperson for Proposition 37 in California, joining us at the bottom of this hour. That is the proposition, of course, that talks about requiring GMO labeling on foods in California and has nationwide implications. We've also got Anthony Gucciardi coming up in the second hour with breaking news about GMO scientists admitting that they really do want to kill people and cause infertility, and that, hey, the fewer people that are left standing after all the GMOs are dispensed and fed to you, the better we all are, according to these scientists. So it's not even really a question about whether GMOs are, in fact, dangerous or if they cause these cancer tumors, as has been shown in recent studies. It's actually true that the scientists want you to die. So we'll talk about that. It's incredible. Nothing shocks me anymore because they literally just want to kill humanity. It's an anti-human technology. We'll get into that. The news is coming up, by the way, but first, in the third hour, also, we've got Ted Anderson joining us, and then some great news about how to protect yourself from radiation and from MSG. So let's get right into the news. Bill Clinton says no president could have magically fixed the economy in one term. I guess he's now an Obama apologist. Is that it? Well, of course you can't fix the economy in one term if you're a global bankster sellout. And anybody who expects Romney to fix the economy is, living in a dreamland as well. Senate votes to shield U.S. airlines from EU's carbon scheme. That should be an interesting battle over whether U.S. airlines can actually be charged money for emitting carbon dioxide, an extra carbon dioxide tax. That's coming in many forms all across America and around the world. Here's what else is coming up. Obama says he's blocking out the Israeli noise. Yeah, it's just noise. Don't worry about the possibility of nuclear war over there and Iran and Syria and everything that's going on. It's just noise. So go back to sleep, Americans, and vote for more hope and more change, because I guess we haven't had enough hope in the last 4 years. We need yet more hope. We do need some change, that is for sure. But okay, moving on. Court rules motorists can be detained for paying by cash at toll booths. This is a big deal. Paul Joseph Watson article up right now at Infowars.com. The 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals has ruled that private contractors operating toll booths have the power to detain and store records on motorists, that is, detain motorists, in other words, arrest them, who pay by cash at toll booths. So cash is now the great evil. Do you see where this is going? If you use cash, it's evil. Now, this particular motorist was trying to pay with, it looks like a $50 bill or maybe a $100 bill, something larger than a 20. And they said, well, we can't take that. Those large bills are evil. And so they detained him. They essentially arrested him. This is in addition to another case that happened recently when a Walmart cashier ripped up the $100 bill of a customer there, trying to prove that it was counterfeit, but it wasn't. It was a real $100 bill. And then the police were called, and Walmart was ordered to replace the $100 bill that they ripped up. You see where this is? So those of us who use cash, which includes myself, by the way, I use cash everywhere. I frequently use $100 bills, frequently use $50 bills, and I've never had a problem with it. But I don't shop at Walmart, and I don't go through these tollways. So maybe when I do that, I'm going to be arrested. But the point is, they want to make you think you're a criminal for using cash. Just carrying cash is now described as being a criminal. See, they want you to all use electronic money because it's trackable, because it's traceable. The evil of cash that's being propagandized out there is because cash is anonymous. Cash is untraceable. Cash is the currency of, well, freedom, in a sense. That and Bitcoin, of course. Moving on. Oh, yeah, here's another coverage of that at 10 News. Same story, motorist. It's getting coverage in the mainstream media. In fact, I'm told we have a short video clip on that. Let's roll that and see what the video shows us. This is from WTSP.com.
Pay for tolls with a larger bill, like a 20 or 100, and you may have to fork over personal information. As 10 News investigative reporter Mike Deason has discovered, the Florida Department of Transportation has essentially been doing that and tried to cover it up when it was caught.
The toll taker says this is what happens when you give large bills like that. It's what we have to do. Meet Joel Chandler, who just paid his $1 toll on the Polk Parkway with a $100 bill, and he's not being allowed to leave unless he provides personal information to the toll taker.
So you all detain people until you get their personal information?
Yes, sir. It's a policy the Florida Turnpike Authority instituted for people who paid with $20, $50, or $100 bills. You give me the information, you can go.
I'm being detained, even though I've provided you legal tender. So why am I being detained?
This is a serious criminal offense to illegally detain somebody without legal authority, which is exactly what they're doing.
Chandler called and emailed the Florida Department of Transportation to complain about the policy.
Their initial response was there is no policy to do this, which really made me concerned because it appeared that they were just individual rogue toll booth workers that were, detaining people.
But the practice continued at toll booth after toll booth, and if someone refused to provide the information, they were threatened with arrest. I can call FHP and they can come here and give you that information. Would you like for me to do that?
I'm asking what the statute is. That's all I want.
Okay, so this goes on, and you can watch this on YouTube if you want. But the point is that you see how they're criminalizing you. They are arresting you for paying with legal tender that is marked as the currency of the Federal Reserve. I guess that's another story. But hey, if they're going to accept counterfeit $1 bills from the Fed and counterfeit $5 bills, or fiat currency is what I mean, then they should accept fiat $100 bills. So this, again, it's the criminalization of everything that's normal in America today. So are you exercising free speech? Are you protesting somewhere out in public? You're a criminal. I was talking to Dan Badandi out here during the break, and he was talking about how they're trying to just film in a public place, and they're always threatened with by the cops and the security people. They're threatened to say, you can't film here. Why? Oh, because we say so. Because you're a criminal for filming here. Yeah, you're a member of the press, but you're a criminal. So if you use cash, if you drink raw milk, let's say, if you're a farmer, if you film in public, in filming something they don't want you to film, all of a sudden you're a criminal. This is it. This is the mass criminalization of America underway, and they're going to force everybody into using their currency-controlled electronic systems, the RFID chips embedded in your palm or in your arm or electronic wallets. That's where it's all going. So check out that story at Infowars.com. Let's move on. Painkillers are the cause of millions of headaches. This has come out from a new study. This is published in BBC News as well. This is that vicious cycle. A lot of drugs actually cause the very things that they claim to prevent. For example, we know that many drugs that claim to treat osteoporosis actually cause fragile bones. Many drugs that claim to treat inflammation actually cause inflammation. Diabetes drugs cause long-term diabetes. And psychiatric drugs also cause diabetes. But painkillers cause headaches. All right, you got that? This is the scam. Chemotherapy causes cancer. It's the #1 side effect of chemotherapy. Mammograms cause cancer. They emit ionizing radiation. They irradiate the lungs and the liver and the heart and the breast tissue. Mammograms cause cancer. That's why the cancer industry loves to push mammograms, because it's a repeat business gimmick. It's a scam. It's a crime against women, if you ask me. But anyway, this is all coming out. Painkillers cause headaches. I think just reading the financial news causes headaches. It makes you want to take some painkillers. Of course, we don't do that around here. Medication-free for over a decade. That's true. In fact, I haven't had vaccines for, a dozen years, something like that. I mean, when I was a kid, I got vaccines because I just didn't know any better. But I haven't had vaccines for as long as I can remember, and I never get sick. So go figure. All right, here, check this out. The Replicator 2 has just been announced by MakerBot.com. And I know this probably sounds like a plug for them, but it's really a news item. Here's why this matters. The Replicator is a desktop 3D printer. It's a fabrication device that sits on your desk, and it literally prints 3D objects using strings of basically a type of plastic. It makes hard plastic items. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, think about the current economy. You run to Walmart and you buy all your little plastic gadgets and items that are imported from China and manufactured in a manufacturing facility. If this replicator technology takes off, and I believe it will, the economy is going to shift in the next decade in a big way. Instead of buying objects at stores like Walmart or even Home Depot, you're going to be printing the objects that you need. You're going to be buying just the raw material. And eventually, I think they'll have metallic printing devices. You can print metal objects, like you can print your own gears. You can print your own wrenches and tools and things like that. This will shift the entire global economy, and I want to be on the record right here making this prediction. Manufacturing is going to become decentralized and local, right to your desktop. This technology is here right now. It's going to get even more advanced in the years ahead. A lot more news and guests straight ahead. Stay with us here on The Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back after this break.
Aaron.
And we are back here on The Alex Jones Show. Thank you for continuing with us. We've been talking about the criminalization of using cash at toll booths in Florida. Just showed a video in the last segment. And this is The Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams sitting in here. And as proof that this is The Alex Jones Show, we've got Alex joining us by phone with some comments on this criminalization of cash at tollways. Alex, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mike. I'm coming in today just to do a special report on this for the nightly news. It's such a gigantic issue that I was at a coffee shop, a chain coffee shop I probably shouldn't have been in, just a few weeks ago, and bought like $25 worth of stuff. And they tried to not take my $50 and called the manager and acted like I was a criminal. Of course, Walmart's rip up your money now. If you try to use cash, they're arresting people that use $2 bills. They're arresting people that even show people silver coins. They are now arresting people nationwide that write political slogans with chalk on the sidewalk. They're now arresting people nationwide that film police in public. They're now calling the police on my crew when they're on major streets in Austin in suits, videotaping. We are not a free country. The last vestiges are being removed. But in that report out of Florida, people paying with cash with $5 are having the police called on them, and people are being held by the little bureaucrats. People should just shut their car down there and just block the whole toll road. We've discovered toll roads run by foreign companies like Centra are actually buying up hundreds of newspapers just here in Texas, hundreds, over 200, and actually running mayors and people and taking over the towns. We are wide open. We've been infiltrated by criminal corporate interest, and it's time to say no, hell no. And when you look at the fact that in California and now New Jersey, they're injecting children without parental consent, they're giving them morning after pills without parental consent, they're taking them for abortions without parental consent, and they're now announcing they want to just force shots on us. This is a lawless group of criminals trying to break our will. And here's the thing for all the idiots that say, well, I'll just pay with a credit card. What do I have to hide? Once they have you with pure digital money, they can deny you buying and selling if you're not a good globalist. And they've said they'll do that. And here's the final key, and I want to get back to news. So you have breaking news coming up. They can also, like Bank of America wanted to do, charge you up to $5 just to use your own money. Folks, you're going to be paying to use money now, not just getting 0% interest at the banks. This is a systematic takeover. Again, hundreds of studies showing GMOs cause sterilization because they're designed to, and all these top scientists from GMO companies constantly brag, as Mike was pointing out, he has proof coming up, when they say, hey, this is sterilizing all the rats, they go, yeah, what do you think we're doing? They're backdooring all this tech with these traits into the food. We're dead already. You're in a sci-fi horror movie. It's hardcore. hardcore beyond belief. Most people are in a zombie state. You're not going to reach them. Most people are power-tripping, brain-damaged minions who have been given their little brainwashed role template they follow. You are in a science fiction movie, people. It's 2012. We are under attack. Our own species has a subgroup that thinks that they're a separate species in their own words and that we're animals to be killed. They're murdering you and your family. You're all being poisoned. I'm sorry, Mike, I've been off.
No, it's good.
Off 3 days, and I'm chomping at the bit. I'm coming in to do a special report. God bless you, my friend. Get back to all your news. I know you got breaking info coming.
No, stay on, Alice. Stay on. I got a question for you. The other thing about this not accepting cash at toll booths is when you use electronic payment systems, they know where you are and they know you're not at home. That way, you know how they want to fill the prisons because the corporations own the prisons and produce the products now. They can simply go to your home when they know you're not there, plant drugs there, have you arrested, and they can arrange all of this.
Exactly. Look at how they're shutting down Amish, Trump farms, lemonade stands.
Right.
Louisiana's criminalized using cash and secondhand sales. We are prisoners. We have been captured. We are prisoners. We have been captured. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. God bless you, Mike. Keep it up. Thank you for coming in. You're the best.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Well, nobody says it like Alex Jones, folks. It's hard. It's hard to overstate the degree of tyranny that we are under, the degree of oppression that we are living under here. And, Alex is right. I mean, that's why his attitude is so effective here on the show, why he has so many fans and listeners, because, this is something that we should be screaming about. This is insane. What's going on in our world, how we're being poisoned by our food, poisoned by the, quote, scientific vaccines, how we're being criminalized for using cash, criminalized for exercising free speech, writing things online that the establishment doesn't like, posting things on Facebook that get you arrested and thrown in a mental institution. He's right to scream about it. There's no calm way to really present the truth, okay? That's the bottom line. We're going to do our best, though, and we've got Stacy Malkan coming up right after this segment with more information. Stay with us.
Empire's on the...
All right, you're listening to The Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, sitting in for Alex today. I'm the editor of naturalnews.com and a frequent contributor to InfoWars Nightly News. Hey, speaking of InfoWars Nightly News, check this out. Gary Johnson will be on the nightly news tonight at 7 p.m. Prisonplanet.tv is the website to go to. Get your membership going there, and you can watch that tonight. That should be a fascinating interview. Here's something that drives me crazy. It's infuriating. New York City schools give out morning after pills to students in 13 high schools. They're giving morning after pills and birth control injections to girls without telling their parents, unless parents opt out beforehand. So, and I guess they're doing this to girls as young as what, 13 or 14 is what I read before. So think about this. I mean, parents, you're out of the loop, man. These schools are injecting your children. They're giving them birth control. They're giving them a completely fictitious education, too, by the way, a completely fictionalized history of America. And they're teaching them to worship big government. They're giving them toxic food additives in the school lunches. And then they're teaching them basically to go out and have sex when they're 14 years old and get pregnant. And don't worry, there are no consequences because you can come in and you can ask the school nurse for an abortion pill. Now, regardless of what you think about abortion or when does life begin and that entire debate, shouldn't parents have the say in this? Since when did schools and government run the bodies of our young daughters in schools? That's infuriating. And if you've got a comment on that, we're going to open up third hour here for phone calls. So save that thought. I'd love to have your comments on that issue in the third hour. But until then, other news. We're going to welcome Stacy Malkan, who's joining us right now by phone. She is the spokesperson for Proposition 37 in California. This is the effort to label GMOs on the foods. So it would simply require foods that contain genetically modified ingredients to say so on the label. You know how you have an ingredients label? Well, the big food giants out there, they want that label to say none of your business. They want to poison you with GMOs and do it in stealth mode, secretly, deceptively, so that you don't even know what you're eating and you can't even have a choice to know what you're eating. But to fight that, we've got Proposition 37, which so far is going pretty well in California, and Stacy Malkan joins us by phone to help give us the latest news on that proposition. Her website is carightoknow.org. CA, as in California, righttoknow.org. Is Stacy with us?
Hello, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, great. Thanks for joining us, Stacy. It's great to have you on the show. How are things going there with Proposition 37 so far?
Well, Proposition 37, first of all, it is a huge and very inspiring people's movement. I mean, the grassroots energy around this is just tremendous. We had almost 1 million people in California sign petitions to get this on the ballot in just a 10-week period, and that was twice the number we needed to get on the ballot. That was a huge undertaking by thousands of volunteers across the state, and many of them moms and grandmothers who are not usually out on the streets petitioning, but they care so much about this issue because they want to know what's in their food, because we have a right to know. And as you said, the companies have been genetically engineering our food system, fundamentally altering the genetic code of some of our most important food crops without any required safety studies and without telling us. So this is a huge importance. A lot of the food on supermarket shelves, baby formula, kids' corn chips, cereal, all sorts of foods are genetically engineered, and that's been hidden.
Well, yeah, just about I'm sorry to interrupt, but just about everything with corn in it is genetically engineered. And I'm sure you saw the study last week from French researchers that they fed these rats a lifetime of genetically modified corn, and those rats grew these grotesque, just horrifying, massive tumors so large that they had to literally drag the tumors with them as they tried to crawl across the floor. I mean, it was sickening. What are your thoughts on that research?
God, well, that is a hugely important study because, stunningly, it's the first long-term animal study on GMOs that have been in the American diet for 15 years. And they found very concerning results, mammary tumors as well as liver and kidney problems and also premature death. So the findings were stunning, and the study's getting a lot of critiques. It was a small study and all this, but so important to point out that the industry is using the same study design for their studies, and they're very short-term studies. So what's happening is they're doing these short-term studies, finding indications of liver and kidney problems, and then what's the responsible thing to do if that's the case? If you really want to investigate what's the health effect of something, you do a longer-term study. They don't want to know. So the science has been suppressed and hidden, and now we have this first long-term feeding study showing really stunning results.
But, Stacy, it's infuriating to know that this corn got into the food supply without a long-term animal study ever being conducted. How on earth did that happen where humans are eating this food for what could be a lifetime, but yet it was never studied beyond 90 days? I mean, that is insane. That's scientifically insane.
That's a great way to put it, scientifically insane. I agree. The way it happened was back in the 90s when the vice president at the time, Dan Quayle, announced the government's policy on GMOs. And he said, we're going to treat these foods the same as regular foods. And so, therefore, we don't need to do safety studies and they don't need to be labeled. I mean, okay, not surprisingly, the policy was written by a former Monsanto lawyer, Michael Taylor, who then when he left the Bush administration went to work as a VP at Monsanto, and now he's back at FDA under the Obama administration. I mean, it's just incredible the power these companies have had over government policies, over the science, because you also, independent scientists can't research this stuff because of the patent restrictions. And it's just the FDA policy on its face. They're saying it's the same as regular food, yet Monsanto is spending how much money researching and patenting these seeds that are fundamentally different than from anything that's existed in the food system before.
Well, yeah, they're not only fundamentally different. I mean, they're fundamentally toxic. That's what it looks like the study is showing. Fundamentally, poisonous. I mean, how do you make a seed that grows poison in the kernel of the corn, which is what kills the insects that try to eat it, and then you say feed it to your children?
Yeah, great question. And, most of this is in processed foods right now, but people should also know that just this summer, Walmart decided it would sell Monsanto's first genetically engineered sweet corn. So in the supermarket, the corn on the cob that, looks the same as the corn on the cob we've eaten our whole lives, if you're buying it at Walmart, it could be very different because it was engineered to contain, like you were saying, an insecticide inside the corn. I think people want to know that, and they have a right to know. And so there's all this, everybody's talking about the science and the concerns raised by this study, and absolutely this stuff needs rigorous long-term research. But in the meantime, what we're saying in California is let's at least give people the right to know, a choice, a label.
Well, the corporate science is not science. It is complete fraud. It is quack science, junk science, whatever you want to call it. I have never seen such despicable, unethical behavior among scientists as I've seen those attempting to defend these toxic GMOs. These people will lie. They will fabricate data and results. They will threaten you. I mean, I've been threatened. Others have been threatened. The guest we have coming on next hour has been threatened. These people will do anything, and you should stay tuned, Stacy, for the next hour, because we've got an email from one of these scientists who says, "Yeah, we know it kills you. That's what we're trying to accomplish." That's what they're saying.
It's just crazy stuff. I mean, what I've seen over the last week, the industry's trotting out all these scientists who are questioning the methods and the size of the study without mentioning that it's the same methods and size as all the industry studies that supposedly show safety, which, again, are just 90-day studies, and the tumors in this new French study didn't even show up until 4 months. So if you were going to design a study that wouldn't find health effects, keep it short-term, decide which of those studies are going to get published and which aren't. It's just truly incredible how much power these companies have. But now what we see in California is they're now going to pour $32 million into a lie campaign to try to confuse voters about Prop 37, which is a simple, basic labeling law that's already required in 50 other countries.
Of course, it's going to be a lying campaign. Let's talk about that. What are the biggest lies that we should be prepared to hear from the propaganda campaign funded by all of these big food companies, all the big names that you know? They're going to lie to the California voters in the next 4 weeks or so. What are the big lies that we're likely to hear, Stacy?
So first of all, the two largest funders, Monsanto and the No on 37 campaign, the same companies that told us DDT and Agent Orange were safe and produced science to that effect. So now they've got this huge campaign of deception in California. Interestingly, none of their ads mention genetic engineering. That's the topic they don't want to discuss. Instead, they're trying to say, the initiative is confusing and it will raise costs and people would get sued. And this is all not true. $32 million can buy a lot of confusion and misleading information, but it can't buy facts. And the facts are that this is a very simple, straightforward, business-friendly proposition. It won't raise costs. There's absolutely no evidence to that effect. Costs didn't go up in Europe when they implemented labeling. It's very fair to businesses, and that's why thousands of farmers are behind the Yes on 37 campaign. The largest environmental and health groups in the state were funded by many, many businesses across the state, businesses in the natural organic food industry, which is like the crown jewel of California's economy. These companies are saying, we in California we lead the nation on important health and environmental issues, and this is one of the most important.
Stacey,
we need to win this in California to bring transparency and fairness to our food system.
We do need to win this, and I think we can win this. So, folks, go to California or carighttoKnow.org. Get involved there, and if you're listening from California, be sure to vote. This is actually a good reason to vote. Even if you don't vote for the next presidential puppet, vote for this proposition. This is the reason to go vote. Now, it's clear, though, Stacy, that the reason Monsanto doesn't want this to pass is simply because they don't want people to know what they're eating. Now, if you think about, what if we applied this to everything? What if the doctor that you visit, let's say, prescribed you a pharmaceutical, but he said, it's a secret what's in there. We're not going to tell you the name of it. And then you go to the pharmacy and you get your prescription filled, but it's written in code. And the pharmacist says, well, we don't want you to know what's in that bottle either. You're supposed to take these drugs and let it be a mystery because it's a corporate secret. You're not supposed to know what you're taking. That would be the equivalent of what's happening with GMOs right now. Now, I think most common sense people would say, of course we have a right to know what we're swallowing. It only makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, the biggest challenge for us, and we are running far ahead in the polls right now, 67%, but the no campaign of lies has not truly begun yet. They haven't started with the TV commercials, and they'll be putting $32 million into bombarding the state with deceptive TV commercials. So for folks who want to help us win this fight, and I truly think this is the food fight of our lives, we may never get another chance to have such an impact on the food system just to bring transparency. And so please do check out our website, carightToknow.org.
Now, here's another thing. This issue is a people issue, people versus the corporations. Now, everybody that I know is in favor of honest labeling of foods. What's beautiful about Proposition 37 is that you've got the progressives behind it, you've got the conservatives behind it, you've got the libertarians behind it, you've got scientists supporting it, you've got moms and dads and everybody with children supporting it because they want to know what they're feeding their children, of course. This is an across-the-board issue of basic fundamental right to know, which, of course, is what your website is named after. Can you describe some of the diversity of support that you're seeing for this proposition, Stacy?
Well, it's incredible. The polls show across the country 90% of people want genetically engineered foods to be labeled. And like you said, that's Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats. It's all demographics. People of faith see this as a religious issue because it's tampering with the food system. There are just so many reasons for support here. Farmers across the state, as I mentioned, businesses in California, the largest businesses that are doing sustainable farming and making natural products, all saying it's time to bring transparency and fairness to our food system because we have a right to know. People want to know. When 90% of the people want something and these companies are telling us that we can't have it, this is truly a test of our democracy. Do we have a democracy left? And I think we will prevail in California, but it's going to be a huge fight. And so if folks can join us, join our website, donate, every little bit helps, and it really is going to come down to money with this fight. We've got to get our message on the air.
Well, and remember, this is the people brought this to possible legislation. I mean, the legislators wouldn't bring this to the floor because they're all bought off by these corporate interests. This is the people's effort across the board. The people put this on the ballot directly.
Absolutely. And, yeah, it's incredible. More than 1 million people have asked FDA to label GMOs. They won't do it. 19 states, including California, have tried to pass laws. They can't get it done because of threats of lawsuits and intimidation tactics by the Monsanto lobby.
Wow. Monsanto has got to be stopped. Let me just say that on the record. That is one of the most evil corporations, in my view, that has ever existed on this planet. They threaten the entire future of life on our planet, not just agriculture, but human life as well. Stacy, if this proposition passes, what's going to happen?
Well, I think that what's going to happen is, first of all, we'll see labeling in California. I think there'll be huge pressure across the country. Other states have already said they're going to be putting forth bills. I think we'll see renewed pressure on the FDA. I think there's no stopping this movement. People are waking up they're seeing kids with allergies, they're seeing, loved ones with chronic diseases and wondering what's going on. And the people that I talk to out there who are the passion behind this movement, the moms, who are looking up online on websites like yours, what's happening with our food? Why are we seeing so much illness? And starting to research and finding very disturbing things about GMOs and about chemicals in our food system. And so I do think that we're seeing an awakening among consumers in general, but largely women and moms who are the ones that are buying the food for families and the products for homes. And saying, we don't want toxins in our food and our products.
They better wake up, or their grandchildren are going to be born as mutants. I mean, literally. Or they may not even have grandchildren. They may not have children. I mean, if they don't wake up, it's the end of the line for their genetic lineage. I mean, that's how serious this is.
Well, I think women are waking up, and I think that, this what we're doing in California is a huge part of just reaching the tipping point, because if we can win this, I think the pressure for change will be unstoppable. And, know we just have 6 weeks left, but we need all the help that we can get. So
well said. Stacy Malkan, carightToKnow.org. Visit their website, folks. Help support this. This really matters. And, you know, and by the way, thanks for joining us, Stacy. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me and for all your work, too, Mike.
You bet. All right, we'll be right back. A lot more straight ahead, including more GMO news and scientists saying they do want to kill you with GMOs. Yeah, they admit it. All that straight ahead right here. Continuing, thanks for joining us here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. Alex will be back with us tomorrow and tonight on InfoWars Nightly News, an interview with Gary Johnson at 7 p.m. Central Time, of course, airing live on Prisonplanet.tv for members. And if you want to become a member, remember, your membership is really like, 6-in-1. I think you can use your password. You can give it out to 5 additional friends or family members, so multiple people can access that at the same time. Spread knowledge. That's what this is all about. Help spread awakening. Now, we just wrapped up an interview with Stacy Malkan from Proposition 37, and we're going to be joined very shortly by Anthony Gucciardi, who's got that email that I've been referring to, where a scientist says he really hopes that GMOs are effective at killing people. That's their goal. That's what. Wow. I mean, they just come out and admit that. Yeah, we know GMOs kill you. That's the plan. Eat more corn snacks and corn breakfast cereals. Kill yourself. That's what they say. But Stacy mentioned something that I want to comment on first before we bring Anthony in. She mentioned that even people of faith are concerned about GMOs, and they should be. And I did some research on this, and I want to share some fascinating symbology that's going on with the GMO issue and some symbols from Scripture, some of the stories from Scripture. This will be real quick, but check this out. If you look at the Garden of Eden story and Adam and the forbidden fruit and the tree of knowledge of good and evil that was there in the garden. Now, the tree of knowledge of good and evil represents, in my view, at one level, discernment, being able to know the difference between what is good and what is evil. The apple, it was something that looked like healthy, regular food, but there was an evil element to it that was not visible. That is GMO. It looks like regular corn, but there's poison in it. Now, even worse, it's not just poison. In the Garden of Eden, there was the serpent that was, of course, trying to get Adam to eat of the forbidden fruit. And if you look at the symbol of Western medicine, that symbol is called the caduceus. And I think we've got an image to show on screen for those of you watching on prisonplanet.tv. If you could show that symbol, that'd be great. There it is. The caduceus is a symbol of 2 serpents intertwined. 2 serpents intertwined, and this symbol is found on the diploma of virtually every medical doctor in America. This symbol is found at every medical school. It is emblazoned on virtually every medical text, every medical journal in America. You'll find this in doctors' offices. These 2 serpents that are intertwined in the shape of DNA. In the shape of DNA. So what does it represent? Evil DNA, in a sense, a satanic influence over the seed of life. And isn't that GMO? Isn't that what GMO really is? A destructive, demonic infiltration of the seeds of life that support sustainable life on our planet. So when you look back at the stories of the Bible, even though GMOs didn't exist back then, obviously, or even, 50 years ago, today they do, and those lessons still have merit today because we've got to watch out for food that is infected with pure evil. And those symbols are all across Western medicine. Tells you the truth about what Western medicine really stands for. Serpents and DNA, man. It's right there. It's right there on their diplomas. I'm not making it up. Anyway, we'll be back with Anthony Gucciardi right after this break and a lot more fascinating news about GMO scientists that say, yep, they want to kill you. And we'll find out why. Stay with us. We're already into hour 2 here. Wow. Time flies when you're waking people up, doesn't it? This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. Thank you for continuing with us. We've got Anthony Gucciardi from naturalsociety.com joining us by Skype video here in a second. But first, an announcement. For those in the Austin area, Governor Gary Johnson is holding a rally today at 5 to 7 p.m. at the University of Texas, the Hogg Memorial Auditorium. So you want to check out Gary Johnson, who's on InfoWars Nightly News tonight. Go check that out at 5 p.m. right here in Austin, Texas. Now, I want to introduce Anthony Gucciardi. He's been a frequent guest on InfoWars Nightly News. His website is naturalsociety.com, and he's a very skilled researcher and a good writer, too. He's been able to put together a lot of fascinating articles about what's really happening behind the scenes with GMOs and other issues. And he's got some frightening email to share with us today, plus a lot of other information. And we're going to go over this whole thing about GMOs and the anti-human technology that these scientists, so-called scientists, are trying to push on us. Anthony, thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you on.
Thanks a lot for having me on, Mike. And I think it really is anti-human. And as you'll see in this letter, I called it, as well as you do, a traitor against humanity. These scientists who are essentially creating these gene-altering foods that are in the food supply. And they're really offended when we call them by that name as well. That's why you can see the blind rage in this letter is amazing. And he just thoroughly admits everything.
All right, well,
lays it down.
We're going to save this letter until 8 after, because not all the radio stations carry this particular segment. So, but I appreciate you bringing that to us here at InfoWars, and it is shocking. I've read the letter. You sent it to me in advance, and it's absolutely shocking. But what are some of the big? I've got a list here of some of what I want to cover. But what are some of the big? Give us a preview of what we're going to talk about during this coming hour, Anthony.
Well, I think it's important that we revisit two key GMO studies, and that's the wheat study and then the Roundup study that was done in France and that France is now looking into and potentially calling for a worldwide ban on GMOs. And with any luck, they will do that. It seems that they really have a backbone as opposed to the United States, which is essentially co-opted by Monsanto goons in pretty much every cabinet there is. And then we could also talk about some of these ridiculous rebuttals to the study, like this one guy saying that, oh, if GMOs were so bad, then we'd see an increase in disease. But we don't see that. Meanwhile,
no, we do.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? People are dropping like flies.
I have articles as far back as the 90s saying that a mysterious cause is going around killing people with cancer and brain tumors. They don't know what it is. And then an article just today that's saying basically for the first time, which I don't even believe that's necessarily true if you consider the fact that people aren't really living, they're really on life support for years these days. But for the first time, children are now going to live shorter than their parents. So if we have to wonder why that's happening, we can look to GMOs and every other contaminant in the food supply.
Oh, yeah, I've got a story here about, I think, what was it, an 8-year-old with ovarian cancer? I mean, we're talking about children being hit with diseases that normally would have only affected adults. And even 100 years ago, some of those diseases would have been completely unheard of. And now they're commonplace.
And I don't think it's any coincidence that that French study specifically states that it kills women more quickly than men and causes massive mammary tumors and everything like that. So it's interesting how it targets a woman's reproductive system as well and kills them off with tumors and everything like that. So it's amazing when you look at it how it all ties in together. Well,
that's how you kill a species. You go after the women. I mean, you kill the women first, and then, you know, the birth rate drops, and that's the goal of these scientists. They openly admit it, and we'll have proof of that in an email that was sent to Anthony when we come back. So stay with us. All that and much more straight ahead. Yeah, we're continuing in the second hour. Thank you for joining us. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex Jones today. Yes, this is the Alex Jones Show, and it is Monday, September 24th, 2012. The world is going crazy by the day, and we're here to document it and help make sense of it and possibly even find some solutions, or at least show you how you can avoid being destroyed by it. That's the ultimate goal here, is so that you survive, you stay informed, you have solutions, and hey, you spread the word. You know, you help wake up some other people who might want to still exist when the GMOs have killed off everybody else. So GMOs are the subject for this hour. And then in the next hour, by the way, we're going to have Ted Anderson joining us. And then a Q&A session taking your calls. You're welcome to call in on just about any subject that you'd like. It's going to be an interesting third hour as well. And I'm feeling great. It's like I don't even feel like I get really going here until the second hour for some reason. The first hour is just always warm up for some reason. And then I just feel jazzed to be here. I feel it. I feel the privilege of being here, the honor of being here, the opportunity to bring you this information. Now, joining us is Anthony Gucciardi from naturalsociety.com, who's got this crazy email from GMO scientists who openly admit that, yep, they know that GMOs cause infertility and they know they might kill you, but that's what they want. They love it. They want the GMOs to work. It's like food as a weapon. In fact, I wrote an article entitled that. I think it's up at Infowars.com right now. And check this out. An 8-year-old girl battles ovarian cancer. This from ABC News. Melinda Cosman of Manchester, Connecticut. She's 8 years old and she's got ovarian cancer. You know, how sad is that? And how crazy is it that we've got little girls getting reproductive cancers? That's not right. Something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with our planet. And here to help us make sense of that is Anthony Gucciardi joining us by Skype video. Anthony, what do you think about this 8-year-old girl with ovarian cancer and all the other young children who are being harmed and victimized by all these poisons and the vaccines and the GMOs?
Well, it all ties into what we're talking about today, and specifically the French study on GMOs, you know, with the rats with the massive tumors they had to drag along on the floor that were just almost bigger than their body. Specifically, that study found that the GMOs target women in mammary glands and everything like that, causing massive tumors. So I would say that's most likely linked up. And then you also have a study out today that shows lower income and lower education class of people who typically eat more GMOs and processed foods and stuff like that. They're dying faster than their parents had died. And, you know, the age gap is ridiculous. They're dying 5 years earlier every couple of years now. And it's all linked back to these studies that are ongoing, and which, if we had more, we would conclusively know 100 million%. We already do. But, I mean, the world would be in riots if we had these studies coming out in the capacity they should. But Monsanto's censoring it over and over again, making it almost impossible. That's why it's from France. One of the major ones is from France.
Well, yeah,
you can
and
never do that in the U.S.
All the studies that I've seen that try to defend GMOs are all funded by Monsanto scientists. It just looks like straight payola. Here, we'll pay you some money. You find that these foods are safe, and then we'll give you more work. And scientists line up to do that. And they are betraying humanity as a result. And you, in particular, Anthony, have called them that, traitors to humanity.
Yes, I have. And we declared Monsanto the worst company pretty much every year. I've had my website done massive press releases about it. I've been threatened with my life. I've had people send me pictures of my car and my house and tell me they're going to kill me. But outside of that, you look at the French media versus the United States media, and you look at the difference. Reuters, just like 10 minutes after it came out, said, oh, skeptics draw concerns over GMO study. And here's the quote this guy says, this funny guy. If the effects are as big as purported, and if the work really is relevant to humans, like rats aren't, you know, really relevant to humans, why aren't the North Americans dropping like flies? GM has been in the food chain for over a decade over there, and the longevity continues to increase.
But that's a lie. Yeah, people are dropping like flies. I mean, cancer rates are skyrocketing through the roof. Disease rates are off the charts. I mean, probably everybody listening knows someone with cancer, or they themselves have cancer. I mean, it is through the roof.
Below the age of 25 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like this 8-year-old girl with ovarian cancer. You didn't hear about that a generation ago.
And you also don't hear about the fact that, okay, maybe they live a few years longer, but what kind of quality of life are they receiving? People can get chemo and essentially kill themselves through the chemotherapy, which will sometimes in turn kill the cancer. But what kind of life are you living? You know, it says also one of these articles, it said from the 90s, back when I was looking and researching, it was saying there's a mysterious reason for the massive deaths in children with cancer and everything like that. And then one article, a rebuttal, was saying, from some type of skeptic website. Oh, well, they're actually living longer. They're just having a decreased quality of life, and they're paralyzed, and they have no hair, and they can't talk and stuff like that. That doesn't really necessarily correlate with an enhanced health system or anything like that. They're just essentially dead but moving.
Zombies, I think, is the correct term for that.
It's unfortunate, though, too. It's sad, really. It's really upsetting. And that's why I feel passionate to be here as well and talk about this, because we can actually do something about it.
Zombie apocalypse is on. It is upon us, Anthony. I hope you have your flamethrower ready. Because
the CDC says it's coming.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah, the CDC says the zombie apocalypse could be upon us. And the CDC provides the solution. I love how their little zombie comic book, nobody has a firearm.
and the military is training for zombies too.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, getting back to these scientists and these GMO studies, these scientists, I've written that they are the most despicable humanoids to have ever walked the surface of this planet. And I've been threatened too, but the hilarious thing about this is that these scientists, they can't stand being criticized by people who actually quote other studies, by people who actually question. You know, we are the skeptics, Anthony, people like you and I. We are the real skeptics because we ask questions about science. We don't just totally fall for their junk corporate science and believe it.
Corporate science, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The best way to say it, like you just said, it's corporate science.
Yeah, it's junk science, it's fraud science. But you managed to anger one of these scientists so much, to such an incredible degree, that he wrote you a raging email. Let's get into that right now. Tell us what's in the email.
Absolutely. So I had written this article basically explaining that these GM scientists who are manipulating nature and humanity itself, altering our very genetic code and threatening future generations, are essentially traitors to humanity. And I think we said it best, anti-human. And some of the commenters got a little bit more detail than I did as well. And this guy got so upset that he went ahead and sent me an email, and I independently verified it to be who this guy says he is. And I've talked to you behind the scenes about that.
Yeah.
But here's this email, and I've taken out the expletive words, the curse words that's littered, all caps, a lot of these words. You may see it on the screen. Here it is. I am no traitor against humanity. If this expletive causes infertility, awesome, with 3 exclamation points. Awesome. It's awesome it causes infertility. The world is overpopulated, and people need to stop having children. This is one of the Earth's largest problems. If the Earth wasn't overpopulated, things like growth hormones wouldn't exist. The reason they do is that the Earth cannot produce enough food on its own to feed us all. This is why GMO is actually saving the planet. And then you can see how angry he is when he says, so expletive you and your expletive. You can imagine what that means. I am doing humanity, this is all caps, a expletive favor.
We're showing the email on screen for those of you watching on prisonplanet.tv. I am doing humanity a blank favor. That is
favor. Yes, all caps as well.
And you have confirmed that this is from the scientific, let's just say, I'm not going to give the name, but an entity very well known in the scientific community. And I've independently confirmed that as well.
It's one of the top 3. We'll just say that.
All right.
It's someone that was so upset that they didn't take the necessary steps to protect themselves that they may have known about. They were just so enraged. You can tell from this email, this guy's talking from pure hatred. And he says things like, if the world wasn't so overpopulated, things like growth hormones wouldn't exist. These things don't even make any sense.
Yeah, that's weird.
He loves the fact that it causes infertility.
So this is the shift. At first, the GMO scientists said GMOs are no different than anything else. They're the same. And that's how they got regulated, or let's say really not regulated, as being the same. And then the GMO scientists, the corporate sellouts, said, oh, GMOs are different, which is why we're patenting them, but they're safe. And how do we know they're safe? Because we tested them for a whole 90 days. Well, now, when really pushed to the wall, when really pressed, when really angered on this issue, this guy comes out and admits, we know GMOs cause infertility. We know they're going to decrease human population, and we want that. That's the real story.
Well, they're only saying 2 different things in the public perception. Behind the scenes, they all know it's actually killing you. In fact, we have the GM wheat study that shows that. I mean, we know that it's killing you. We know that for a fact, and they know that for a fact. As you can see, this is a senior scientist saying this, and they don't care. They love it because it's a trickle-down system. Essentially, they want to be like the elite. They think that we're all peasants and they're the lords, and that if we die, that's awesome because they don't have to die. You know, some of them, their families might be eating this stuff. Likely not. I'm sure they eat 100% organic and laugh when everyone says that.
The elites do eat all organic. That's been documented here in stories here.
And they have seed vaults down in the Antarctic, and they stash organic seeds because they know that contamination is the biggest issue right now. Alfalfa, especially the GM alfalfa, gets picked up in the wind and goes to organic farms. And then when they test it to sell to other countries, the other countries say, no, we don't want that. So they just try and sell it in the U.S. instead. So it's contaminating the entire food chain, and they know this. So they're stockpiling for themselves as the peasants run around and eat the GM trash.
By the way, we're going to do something interesting here. We want callers who love Monsanto to call in at 1-800-259-9231. 1-800-259-9231. If you love GMOs, you love Monsanto, and you love poisoning humanity and causing infertility, we want to hear from you right here on The Alex Jones Show. So call in. We'll take your call in one of the next upcoming segments. Stay with us. All right, we're back. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about the scientists, the GMO scientists that literally want to kill us all, as one of them admits in an email that we just showed you. We'll get back to that. And Anthony Gucciardi is our guest this hour, continuing to join us with some analysis of the GMO scourge that threatens all life on our planet. Check this out. France orders a probe after that rat study came out showing the massive tumors in rats fed genetically modified corn. France may, in fact, ban the importation of GM corn. It's already illegal to grow it there. On Infowars.com right now, Monsanto launches damage control over the GMO cancer study. This is an article by Paul Joseph Watson. You can check that out. And I wrote an article that was published last night. It's up on Infowars.com as well. From Zyklon B to GM corn, how GMOs transformed food into a globalist weapon. And in that story, I talk about, you know, from a psychopathic globalist point of view, the downside of Zyklon B is you have to round people up at gunpoint and stuff them into the gas chambers. Wouldn't it be easier if you could just convince people to eat their own poison? And that's GMO. How wonderful. So, Anthony Gucciardi, what do you think about all this coming out now? It seems like we, those of us who protect life on our planet, we're winning. And the scientists are getting outraged that they're losing the debate. They're probably going to lose Proposition 37. They're going to lose because this is all being exposed. What do you think, Anthony?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the fact that it's really a soft kill. This is a new paradigm of warfare, essentially. Instead of going out and rounding up people like Hitler did and essentially killing them in whatever manner through guns or anything like that, we're actually willingly paying corporations to funnel us genetically modified garbage that we then eat and kills us, and not only us, but our future generations. And as you, of course, know, women only have a certain number of eggs, so essentially it's damaging every single potential offspring of theirs. And that's why it's key to look at this article out today also about how low-income families are dying off like crazy and have a super high incident of disease because they eat processed crap. And if you ever go to, use an unfortunate word, some type of ghetto or anything like that, all the stores, they don't even have anything organic. They can go to a farmer's market, and some do. But I mean, when you're living on food stamps, a bag of Doritos for 10 cents, you can get 10 bags of Doritos and have that for dinner. And as gross as that sounds to many of us, that's what a lot of people do, and it's unfortunate. And that's why they're seeing their lifespan drop. That's why their genetics are being ruined. That's why they're not even able to have kids, because we know actually that Roundup causes infertility. That's years old. We've known about this for a long time.
Well, yeah.
But the FDA and USDA do nothing. France does, because there's some people that actually care about stuff over there in Germany and Poland. But over here, I mean, it's just zombie land. No one even cares. They just love the GMOs. And the no to Prop 37 getting funded by Monsanto and everything, it's so obvious. It's so blatant.
Yeah, it really is blatant. It's in your face. And I like how you point out that this is really a dietary attack on poor people. I mean, this will harm poor people more disproportionately larger numbers of poor people than wealthy people who tend to eat GMOs. And of course, we know the global elite avoid GMOs completely. They eat all organic. They have raw milk served to them, even as the peons are arrested for selling raw milk or sometimes even transporting raw milk across state lines. So yeah, the elite know, don't touch this stuff. This is the poisonous food for the masses. And those masses are dropping like flies, literally. I mean, look at the cancer rates in this country. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people a year dead from cancer alone, and that doesn't even cover heart disease and all the other causes of death.
Yeah, and how about some of those mysterious deaths, which a lot of it is now being found to be essentially toxic overload. But also, they want the peons to basically eat the food and die and not have children. That's why they're now offering implantable chips to make you infertile as well. That's new news. And you were talking about the morning after pill. They give the Gardasil shot without parental consent.
Right.
They have it all down.
It's a total chemical assault is what it is.
Yes, it is.
It's a genetic assault.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. You were talking about the serpent earlier and everything like that. If you attack the genetic code of humans, you're essentially touching the core of humanity. It is anti-human in every sense because you're destroying, you're unlocking the door to Pandora's box.
Yeah, no kidding. This is a new kind of warfare, folks. This is warfare on your seed. This is not guns and chemical weapons. This is destroying your humanity, destroying your egg and your sperm. This is destroying your whole lineage. Now, we're going to take some calls from guests straight ahead, so stay with us here. And if you'd like to call in, 800-259-9231. We're looking for people who love Monsanto. Please call in.
We're on the march. The empire's on the...
All right, we are going to be taking calls from people who say that they love GMOs, they love Monsanto, they think GMOs are the greatest thing in the world. Now, something interesting happened during the break. As we went to break, I looked at the phone board, and it was stacked full of callers. And then during the break, the producer asked me, said, so you want people who are pro-Monsanto to call in? Is that right? And I said, yes, that's what we want, pro-Monsanto people. And then I come back in and the phone board is empty, which I guess, and now it looks like maybe some lines are ringing, but we may have trouble finding people who are actually in support of Monsanto. If that's the case, then I guess, Anthony, we're not going to get threatened with being killed here on the air, which is that's what I expect to happen. People calling in and saying, we're going to kill you. We know where you live. That's what they do to us. These scientists are really, well, thugs, ultimately. Your comments.
That happen.
What do you think?
Well, I think I've been threatened plenty. I kind of miss it sometimes. It reassures me that I'm doing the right thing. But I think, hey, any callers that want to call in and maybe tell us why they think people love Monsanto, why is this still going on? That might still work too. But I think I want to ask. I know some out there are listening. Probably the scientist that emailed me too, since it sounds like he essentially follows everything I do. But I want to read them a quote about this GM wheat, and I really want to know how anyone could think that this is a good thing.
Okay, wait a minute. Anthony, we have somebody on the phone board here who says they're pro Monsanto. Do you want to let's talk to them?
Let's talk to them. All
right, let's hear what they have to say. Feedman from Pennsylvania says you're pro Monsanto. Hello, Feedman. Welcome to the show. Are you really pro Monsanto, or are you joking?
Oh, well, I'm pro everything. Why not? Got to play with the winning team, right? As they always say.
Symbolic.
Right now, as I speak, I'm taking a whole load of GMO corn to some unsuspecting farmers. Come on.
Okay. All right. A lot of humor and comedy. So I don't.
Well, hey, I look at it this way. I'm not trying to interrupt. I mean, I understand.
Must be only ghosts are from Monsanto. I can't hear the caller.
No. Hold on, Anthony. He is talking. Go ahead, Feedman. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Monsanto, but I like everybody. Even if you are a worthless walk of life, I got your back. But, the second you cross my country, you better watch out.
All right, good. Thank you for the call. That's a bit of a comedian calling in. This is kind of as I suspected. We're not going to get people actually calling in who can defend Monsanto with anything rational. But let's keep trying. The phone board is empty. This has never happened in the history of InfoWars. Because, of course, we called for people who support Monsanto, and all we can get is a guy honking his horn. Anthony.
Well, hey, he made a good point. Even the worthless Monsanto zombies that want to kill everyone, they still have a spirit. But hopefully they'll come to their senses someday. Well, I was going to read
he said he's pro everyone, though. I mean, does that mean what he's pro Stalin. He's pro Hitler. I mean, I don't want to second guess the guy. He's obviously having a fun time there. But how can you be pro everything? You can't be pro everything. You have to have discernment.
Yeah, you do. Exactly. And you can't let these people stomp all over you, or you're just going to eventually come to the point where you're groveling at them. And that's not something that I personally want to do. All
right, so let's do this. Let's change the rules since we can't find an actual person who supports Monsanto. All right, so here you go, callers. And here we go. 1-800-259-9231 if you're against Monsanto, if you're against GMOs. We'll take your calls now.
And let's see how fast we can get calls against Monsanto's corruption versus for Monsanto's corruption.
Yes.
If that's not significant in showing, there's really not a lot of actual real people that like Monsanto. There's apparently none. And when we have these comments on our websites, 5 seconds after we post them, 6 paragraphs long saying that GMO seeds are great and we're stupid idiots that don't know how to read a study, well, it seems that they might have some type of financial interest in what they're doing. Or the people that go on social networking websites and, blah, blah, blah all day long about how great Monsanto is. Do you think they're real, or do you think they actually have some type of motivation?
Oh, they're paid, and you know that. I mean,
yeah, obviously.
They're paid trolls. Well, look, the board is filling up. Let's go to Kenny in Ohio. But it says maybe pro Monsanto. So let's find out. Kenny in Ohio, you're on the air. Are you pro Monsanto or are you against Monsanto?
One good reason to be pro Monsanto.
This guy again.
All right, the comedian is back. Thank you for adding humor to our broadcast.
So now we can confirm that he is indeed anti-Monsanto. So the one potential caller we had that was maybe pro Monsanto because he said he liked people in general.
I love it.
Turns out he hates Monsanto, too.
This is great. Let's go to Sean in Tennessee. Sean, you're on the air. Are you pro Monsanto? Are you against Monsanto? Or are you honking a horn at us as the previous
Well,
call?
I'll just put it this way. Judging from what I noticed happen with my mother being diagnosed with breast cancer, now, thankfully, she got over it with all this new modern scientific medicine. I don't really like it all that much. I think it makes things worse, but no, I don't really care for Monsanto. They're killing people, even those in my family. And I'm really tired of their crap.
Yeah, are you teaching your family about avoiding GMO?
Well, I've tried to approach them in different ways, on many different levels. My mom seems so confident and assured that she has this thing going, some kind of special diet with not being on gluten and all that.
Yeah.
I guess it seems reliable. I don't know if I can necessarily disprove it, but she seems to be pretty confident in that as it's been lately.
But are you seeing
she's just basically eliminating all gluten or whatever? Since I guess from what I understand, that's what her doctor's telling her, that she has to go without that.
Well, that's a good thing to eliminate gluten, but you got to watch out because corn is a gluten-free food, and a lot of the gluten-free products are made with corn. And if you don't buy organic, then they can be genetically modified corn. Anthony, your thoughts on that point?
Yeah, I hear callers every radio show I go on call in and say basically that they had a relative or even an animal in some cases. Farm owners call in. We had a relative or a cattle or whatever eating this GMO corn or whatever it is, and they just basically got cancer or dropped dead. You'll notice the caller for the caller also though that French study specifically mentions that the women were getting tumors a lot more quickly than the men. It targets the women, absolutely. It's unfortunate. Gluten-free doesn't mean it's healthy. Always buy organic. GMO-free 100%. It can still be GMO if it's gluten. A lot of people are on that gluten craze,
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go to some other callers. This is always fun. We've got Frank in Nebraska who says, the description says pro-GMO. Frank, is it true? Are you in support of Monsanto and GMOs? Tell us, please.
Oh, well, I tell you what, I think GMO foods should be served at every Bilderberg meeting, the whole UN, Wall Street, all and all the major financial centers, and so I mean it's like if Messrs. Rothschild, Rockefeller, and Seligman and the rest of the crowd think it's so damn good, by God, they should be the first to eat it, don't you?
All right, Frank wins the More Cowbell Award right here at the Alex Jones Studios. More cowbell for you, Frank. Good answer. And literally, we are trying to take calls from people who are in favor of Monsanto, and we can't find one person. But thank you, Frank. That was a very good suggestion, and maybe we should take that. Anthony, your thoughts on the globalists and their diets and why they're avoiding GMO?
Well, I think if they think GMO is the same as regular high-quality organic food, then they should really be eating GMOs all day long. And I would challenge anyone that's pro-GMO to literally eat a 100% diet of GMO foods for a year. And if you're still alive, then you call into the show and be the first caller to actually support Monsanto.
Maybe we should have a reward. Somebody,
yeah, we'll give you a reward.
Wanted, dead or alive.
Yeah, they call in and they can't speak English anymore. You know, we'll talk to them.
Okay, all right. Chuck in New Hampshire. Chuck is apparently against Monsanto. Is that true, Chuck? Are you not in favor of evil contaminated food that may cause cancer tumors? What's the deal, Chuck?
Hey, Mike, how are you? I'm very much against Monsanto and genetically modified foods. The reason I called in, I wanted to comment. I met up with some libertarians 2 days ago. We actually marched on the Fed in Boston. But a number of these libertarians were in favor of genetically modified foods just because of the whole issue of being libertarian, not wanting to infringe on a company's right to promote these foods. So I really think what the work you're doing is important, trying to reach out and teach people why these foods are harmful and why they should be labeled, in fact.
Yes, good point. Well, libertarians should know that in a free market, you have to have good information in order to make an informed choice. So libertarians, I would hope, I mean, I count myself as a libertarian-leaning type of person, but we got to know what's in the food to make the decision in a free market, right? What do you think, Chuck?
No, absolutely, man. I read that one piece that you did about being able to make an informed choice in a free market. You absolutely have to know what it is you're purchasing, what you're exchanging for.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people are just misinformed. There's a lot of misinformation about GMOs out there. There's a lot of propaganda. So I think the work that you're doing is extremely important. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Chuck, calling from the state named after hemp, New Hampshire. Anthony, the next call goes to you. All right, Chris from Kentucky. Chris, welcome to the show. Do you have a question for Anthony Gucciardi?
Yes, I formerly used to be for this until I woke up as somebody who educated on me. I work part-time in a restaurant, and you will talk about the labels. Everything is modified. It's the genetically modified oils. Everything is in there. This is not food these days. I don't eat the food at the restaurant, but with the economy, I got to work part-time at this job. But the reality of it is, avoid going to restaurants and ask questions. If you can find some place that can locally support the farmers to have a restaurant, that's where I go. Stay away from these chains.
Very good point. Restaurant food. Anthony, your comments on restaurant food and GMO.
That's absolutely key, and the same goes for supermarket food. If you're going to a restaurant, especially a low class, not low class, but a lower income bracket restaurant like McDonald's or something like that, and that's why we're seeing the study with people who are financially struggling dying quicker because they go to McDonald's. I almost said Monsanto. They go to McDonald's.
One and the same, buddy.
And they purchase a $1 burger, or they go to the supermarket and purchase a $1 chip bag or something like that. Chances are it is GMO almost 100% of the time, so avoid that, absolutely.
What kind of bag did you just say?
Chip bag.
A chip bag, snack chip bag. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you violated FTC there for a moment. Okay, let's go to Leah.
What would I even have said? I don't even know.
No worries. It's all live radio. Leah in Nevada, are you pro Monsanto, or are you against GMOs in our food being secretly added to our foods? What's your take, Leah?
I'm definitely against GMOs in our food, and there's 2 points I want to raise here. Back in the day, if you get a product that's poison, why don't we have skulls and crossbones on the labels of these GMO foods?
I like that.
The other thing is, with all the smoking guns we have against Monsanto and GMOs, why hasn't there been a class action lawsuit in the United States? Because they're obviously killing people. They're giving people cancer. And also, the fertility problems. Why? I mean, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a class action lawsuit. Can you?
That's a really good point, and it would have to happen, Anthony, on the scale of something like big tobacco, wouldn't it?
Well, there have been lawsuits,
but I mean, not a big nationwide class action type of deal.
Oh, right, of course, right. It would have to be massive. It would have to have millions of dollars worth of funding. We've looked into it. We've actually discussed with a few people about what it would take, and it would take It would take at least $2 million just to even get the lawyer fees and everything out of the way to get started. Then you'd have to find people that were damaged from Agent Orange and everything like that. As far back as we're talking like the 40s, we could go back as far as then and start getting people that were damaged by Monsanto-related creations like Agent Orange and stuff like that, which they did, of course, make and kill over 500,000 people. They're not a corporation that cares about you. And we would have to go through that process. It would be super complicated. I think the best way would just be to label them out of existence.
Yeah. Hence Prop 37. That's why this is the ultimate weapon for protecting our health and safety in the food supply. Let's take another call, Anthony. We've got Mac in New Hampshire with us. Mac, are you in favor of GMOs or are you against them?
I'm against GMOs, but think of it this way. Why does America eat them? Why doesn't our government ever come out and tell us?
Well, the scientists tell us that they like the infertility. They love decreasing the population. That's what they say.
That doesn't get out onto your media, does it?
Nope.
I mean, the regular media.
Right.
Right. Now, you guys always talked about Hitler, right? You guys should learn about Hitler. He didn't kill all those people. It's done by the same people that are doing it now. Like the Rothschilds, the Lagoyeviches.
IG Farben in the pharma industry, right.
Yeah, but you guys should learn about Hitler. He didn't kill people. That was done by the Warburgs, the Hamburgs, the same people. It's the rich, the ultra elite that are killing us. You know, you should never blame Hitler. He didn't do any of that stuff. It's all done by the elites.
Well, yeah, I mean, the globalist madmen, they always have henchmen to carry out, thugs to carry out their orders. I mean, look at the TSA. Napolitano's not reaching down your pants, not yet anyway, but she's got a bunch of thugs out there at the airports who will gladly do it for them. Anthony, your thoughts on top-down control of tyranny?
Well, the caller's right. Obviously, Hitler was essentially a figurehead, but it doesn't mean he's a good person at all. I would definitely not say that.
No, he wasn't saying that either. He's just saying that.
No, I just want to be clear. We don't support him at all. But what I was saying...
that should be a given, Welcome to the show. Obviously. We don't support Hitler.
We don't support... When it gets to that point, when we have to say we don't support Hitler, something's wrong. But anyway,
right.
I was going to say, basically, I don't know if the caller is aware, but there was a recent news piece, I believe about 2 days ago, that explained that German citizens, a lot of the German military citizens, actually got off without even orders. They were going ahead and killing people, killing babies, killing women, killing children. This reminds me of this scientist. Once again, if you missed the email, I'm going to read one portion of it.
Oh, yeah, but hold on, Anthony, you're right. That did just come out. It was interviews with German soldiers who loved the act of killing women and children. They loved it. They lived for it.
Yeah, they physically were driven by it. And even when they weren't ordered to kill, they would just kill anyway, which shows that it's a trickle-down effect to the point where they think they're in power, too, over these 4-year-olds. And they get this disgusting, power-driven lust of killing these little babies, literally little babies.
No, it was one of the German pilots that would drop bombs on civilian populations. I remember in this article, he said it gave him a tingly feeling. So I wonder if these GMO scientists, if they get a tingly feeling when they see, low-income people shopping for corn chips in the store, does that give them a tingly feeling to know they're soft killing those poor citizens?
Well, their leaders do. At the top, the elite certainly get that tingly feeling, except it's more, I think, of a evil feeling, a lust of power. But the scientist in this email, like we said, we verified it before. You may have heard it already, but he said, I am no traitor against humanity. If this curse word causes infertility, referring to GMOs, awesome. The world is overpopulated and people need to stop having children. So obviously he's getting off on it, just like the German soldiers, I think, were getting off on it. When they have no real power, they're just killing babies. And what's this guy? Killing low income or killing the world, really everyone, even rich people eat this stuff.
Mad scientist.
The world. He's a mad scientist, and he's probably making $500,000 to kill people.
Right, because it's always a lot of money in causing death, it seems. Let's go to another caller. Tim in Kentucky. Welcome to the show, Tim. How can we help you, sir?
How you doing, guys?
Doing
Great
good
show so far. I got 2 points. First
all right,
of all,
make it quick because we're about to go to break. So go ahead and we'll stay with you.
All right, disabled veterans from Desert Storm, and I was part of that slow kill where I took all the shots and the pills in the DU, and I'm 4 years older than Alex, and I have 10 diseases.
Oh,
so
my
I
God.
know that.
All right. Stay on the line. We want to hear the rest of your story. When we come back after this break on the Alex Jones Show, stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we've got on the line a returning veteran from, I believe, maybe maybe Desert Storm, well, he'll tell us in a second. This is the Alex Jones Show. We're continuing our conversation with callers about GMO and how we're all being soft-killed using food as a weapon. But this individual was injected with experimental vaccines. It says he now has 10 diseases. Is it Tim? Is that your name?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tim, you're back on the air. Go ahead.
I was just pointing out that I heard Alex the other day say he was 38, and I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm 42, only 4 years older than him, and I have 10 diseases. 10 diseases. Now, this slow kill started for me 21 years ago. I've went on since then to get a degree in plant science, and I was doing that around 1999, and those Monsanto people were sending salespeople to the university, to tell us what a great thing this was.
Really?
And I remember questioning it, thinking, this can't be right.
So do you blame your diseases on the vaccines from the military or diet or what?
Absolutely. Absolutely from the service, from the depleted uranium and the multiple vaccinations and the live nerve agents. That's absolutely the cause. I had the same Major Rocky that comes on there a lot with Alex from Desert Storm. He's got teeth falling out. I have the same type of symptoms. I'm going to have Anthony
read you a quote, Tim. And Anthony, you have that quote ready?
Yeah, Tim, I want to bring this into reality for a minute. People always think it's so funny to say that GMOs don't do anything, vaccines are perfectly safe, and these so-called skeptics really get off on it and love it. I want to really read this quote to you, and I want you to respond. Tell me if this is the case, because it's really upsetting to me that this is happening. This is reality. This caller is reality, and the people saying this garbage are not. This guy says, well, GMOs can't be bad. He says, if the effects are really as bad as they say, and the work is really relevant to humans, why aren't North Americans dropping like flies, and why aren't the disease rates rising? Tim, can you tell me, basically, do you think that's true, that we're all fine, everything's fine in your scenario?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. It's a slow kill, and they're going to die. I'm going to die. I've known that since I got my degree in '99. I've known what's killing me. Now I know what's killing me. See, my degree was actually specific in golf courses, so I spent time on golf courses after I graduated, and the insecticides were what hit me off.
Oh, man.
The recontact with insecticides, I would start to vomit and drool and things like that. So, it's not that letter. That person shouldn't be a accredited scientist.
This is the professor. This is the skeptic professor saying that GMOs are perfectly safe on Reuters. I'm reading it. The effects are as big as purported, and the work is really relevant to humans. Why aren't the American dropping like flies? This is on Reuters. This is their main source to call the article. Skepticism grows over Monsanto GMO corn study. So this is this guy that's completely out of touch with the reality, literally lying. As people are calling in, and we're seeing the article saying that people are starting to die quicker and quicker, cancer rates are skyrocketing. He's saying everything's fine. If the GMOs were so bad, why is everything so perfect?
All right, Tim, I feel compassion for you, man. I just want to say, get your nutrition up. Eat superfoods, get the supplements, get the trace minerals, protect yourself to a very...
I say, Tim, go to naturalnews.com, Mike's website, start reading it every single day and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah,
you can literally save your life. You don't have to die. You start doing some detoxes and some cleanses and stuff, you can get on the right track, man.
That's right, Tim.
Will do, man. I appreciate the help, guys. Have fun.
All right. Thank you. Take care, Tim. Let's go to this, Anthony. We've only got not even enough time to cover this, but tell you what, will you stay with us for 5 more minutes, Anthony, into the next hour? And we're going to cover cows now being fed gummy bears, marshmallows, Fruit Loops, orange peels, and candy because of the drought in the Midwest. How about that? There's a fascinating subject for you. Cows. They're feeding candy to cows. Yep, all that coming up straight ahead right here on the Alex Jones Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. Joining us. We're into the third hour. Thank you for joining us. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. And wow, what a show. We've been talking about secret poison in your food, the GMO. And Anthony Gucciardi is going to stay with us for the next few minutes, and then we'll be joined by Ted Anderson in about 7 minutes. And check this out. This news is just breaking. Yahoo News says that cows Well, the drought has been so bad in the Midwest that corn is super expensive and in short supply. So these farmers are feeding their cows this candy. Now, Anthony, you brought this to my attention last night, and I was just shocked. I could not believe they're feeding their cows marshmallows and Fruit Loops and gummy bears. Is this for real? I mean, is this what it's come down to now? We're feeding cows candy?
This is reality. And for the very same reasons that we would never eat it, they're feeding it to cows. It says here that they're feeding it to them because of the high sugar content and no real nutritional value. So they actually want no nutritional value and high sugar content to make sure the cows get really, really fat, really huge. And of course, they're also going to get super sick and get cancer and die during the same time. So they have to make sure they get them fat as possible so they can kill them as quick as possible so they don't actually die on them.
Well, the cancer tumors add to the raw beef weight, don't they? I mean,
well, apparently
the carcass weight. The extra tumors, it gives them a little more payback for raising the cow, doesn't it? I mean, I'm joking, but
of course.
I would hope that a USDA inspector would see a large tumor and say no to that carcass, but I mean, you never know. Everything's crazy these days.
Well, apparently it's okay to feed them, quote, cookies, gummy worms, chocolate, Fruit Loops, and candies instead of any grain or corn, which is bad at the beginning. But so now not only do they have an excessive amount of antibiotics, which 2 days ago were admitted to be harming human health. I mean, everyone knows about it. It's been admitted a bunch of times, but a big story said that. Artificial hormones, such as Monsanto's cloned RBGH, which how they make that is they clone genetically modified material and string it together and inject it into the cow. Sounds really good.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have a pandemic of diabetic cows now is what's going to happen. And then I think the CDC is going to announce there's a new pandemic of diabetic cows. And well, the drug companies are going to have bovine diabetes drugs approved by the USDA, and we're going to have veterinarians running around all the cow fields now, treating cows and charging $100,000 for each cow to treat them for diabetes. What do you think about that?
But watch them apply it to humans too, just like this cancer drug they were researching, right? This is hilarious. Everyone needs to listen to this. They were researching a cancer drug and found that it accidentally made men sterile. So now they're reintroducing it as a birth control drug for men.
It never ends, Anthony. It just never ends, man.
I can't even talk about it sometimes. But so now the cattle won't just have these antibiotics, growth hormones, GMOs from corn, everything like that. But here are just some of the ingredients that they're now going to be eating in this new medley of candy. High fructose corn syrup, which, as Alex always talks about on Infowars.com and on the radio show, contains mercury admitted by the Washington Post if you just Google that.
Right.
MSG, hydrogenated oils, pesticides, herbicides like Monsanto's Roundup, insecticides, artificial flavorings, artificial colorings, artificial sweeteners like aspartame. So not only are you going to get the whole dose of GMOs, but now you're going to get some mercury and some high fructose corn syrup in there as well. And then, of course, assuming you're eating conventional meat, you can avoid this by eating organic or avoiding meat altogether. You should eat organic everything. But really, this is what these people are going to be eating now is going to be even worse. And the cows are going to get even sicker, and it's going to be even more detrimental to human health.
I just don't get it, man. What kind of farmer thinks, well, my cow is hungry, let's find some gummy bears?
Well, I'll tell you. It says right here. It says right here.
Anthony, we're out of time, man.
All right.
I want to thank you for joining us today, though. And folks, if you want to learn more about Anthony's website, it's naturalsociety.com. Anthony, great analysis today. Thanks for sharing the email with us in particular.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on. All right, coming up next after this break, Ted Anderson joins us for more news about counterfeit gold. It's worse than you think. Details on the other side of this break on The Alex Jones Show. Stay with us.
For thousands of years, silver has been...
All right, it is Monday. Thanks for joining us. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, editor of naturalnews.com, filling in for Alex Jones today. And wow, what a fascinating show we've already had talking about GMO and other issues. We've got more news coming up, and in this hour, in fact, we're going to be covering the strategies for protecting yourself from radiation, as well as strategies for protecting yourself from the excitotoxin known as MSG. I'll also talk about some of the hidden sources of those excitotoxins. Plus, I'm going to take your calls. So calls about just about any topic you'd like. The number is 1-800-259-9231. Again, 1-800-259-9231. And we'll get to those calls in the next segment, and I welcome calls on just about any subject that you'd like to chat about. So now in this segment, Ted Anderson, of course, founder of Genesis, he is joining us now, and Ted has an update about not only gold prices and gold trends, but also, of course, well, maybe you could call it a pandemic of counterfeit gold. It's being counterfeited, and the tungsten counterfeits are popping up everywhere. This is a huge scandal. Ted, thanks for joining us. It's great to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me up, Mike, and it's good to hear from you as well. I can tell you, let's start with the spots on gold, and then we'll get into the counterfeiting. Right now, gold is at $1,763.40. Silver's at $3,401. We've seen $1,768, and we've seen $3,434 on silver. With the counterfeiting issue, I mean, the problem is that tungsten has the same density and weight as gold. In other words, if you have the same size tungsten bar as you would a piece of gold, they would look the same as far as the size is concerned. They would fit in that particular era. But so you can put tungsten inside of a gold bar and not have to change the size of the gold bar in order to achieve the weight. Now, so you have to be very careful of this. I mean, one of the main things is probably stay away from Craigslist and eBay when buying gold, just for this reason, because once you buy it, it's yours. You're not going to, if you end up with a tungsten bar, you have no one to go back to. So right. you just have to be careful with this particular type of market. You're right; it is showing up in New York City. We've seen bars show up in London and also some other foreign markets as well. And it's a big enough issue for people to be concerned.
Now, Ted, do you think, is this just malicious operators who are drilling out the bars and keeping the inner gold, filling them back with tungsten and selling them off? Or is there some kind of a larger, I don't know, agenda to flood the gold supply with tungsten and thereby drive down the price of gold?
Well, I mean, there is a leverage benefit, I guess, if you will, if you have more bars of gold stored on hand, like if you were a central bank and you wanted to lease gold into the marketplace to suppress the price of gold, which is a practice that has been going on for years in the central banks. To have more gold to lease would bring down the cost of leasing gold, and therefore more people in the futures market can sell short. I can tell you there's been some involvement with that. Not necessarily with the tungsten, but for those of you who would like to understand more about that, GATA covers it very well, GATA.org. They've had lawsuits about the manipulations of gold prices. And of course, if you have more gold bars, tungsten-filled gold bars, usually the gold never gets into the hand of the end user. It's just futures contract, paper shuffling, if you will. So if you can increase the supply of gold by adding tungsten to the center of it, that would have an effect on that. How that play comes out and whether or not there's a conspiracy by the central banks of this world, we have that yet to prove. Of course, they don't want to even admit to trying to manipulate the markets. However, their own memos and so on and so forth, litigation shows that is the case that's been going on, and that's why we have GATA and their litigation. The thing about it is, Mike, is you just simply have to be careful. Tungsten is a very hard metal. Gold is very soft. It's not hard to tell the difference color-wise because tungsten is gray, gold is gold. For the individual, if you're in question as to what you might have, you can have an ultrasound to see what's in the center of that bar, and you'll be able to detect the tungsten. In addition to this, if you feel that concerned about it, you can actually take a drill and drill into it. And because you're dealing with gold, it can be smelted back into a bar again at any time and and used for trade. You do lose a little bit of a premium because now that bar has a hole in it. You have to smelt it off. You'll get about 95% of the spot price. But main thing about it is Mike, you just deal with a very reputable dealer, somebody you can trust.
Well, that's the main thing. Make sure you know where you're getting your gold. And, of course, Ted Anderson is the founder of Midas Resources, the website MidasResources.com. And that's where, really, I think most InfoWars listeners go to get their gold and silver and other precious metal coins. And the number, of course, is 800-686-2237, 800-686-2237. I'm a customer of Midas. I actually made a purchase there about a year ago, got good service, and really appreciate what your team is doing there. Ted, what are you hearing from callers right now? Is there a lot of excitement about gold finally trending upward again, or are people concerned? What's going on?
you got to realize this summer was fairly slow for gold, so people backed away from it. There was actually some fear, and some people actually selling off their portfolios, figuring that gold would be going down. You know, I tried to convince people. It's like, you know, the reasons for owning gold are still there. We still have an economic meltdown going on in Europe. Our debt in the United States is out of this world, and we're consuming about 45% of GDP just to service interest on debt when you consider the off-budget debt as well as the on-budget. So what's going to happen? Interest rates go up. I mean, obviously, it's going to create even larger burden on the people of the United States, and you're going to see more printing going on in Washington, D.C. and diluting of the money, just like we have been seeing in the past. So there's a lot of good reasons to be getting into gold. One of the reasons why Alex and I were talking about what can we offer the people that are listening to the show that would actually educate them and get them up to speed on what's going on economically. And what we came up with is the American Dream video, his not the Follow the Republic, but the Obama Deception, and also Joe Plummer's book, Dishonest Money, which is a very abbreviated version of the Creature from Jekyll Island, but it really does delve into how money comes into existence, why we continue to see the printing press run, and why Washington behaves the way that they do. And we sell that with $2 silver, and we're delivering the whole package right now for $72 per package. Wow. And that gets people a couple silver dollars of videos and the books. So
yeah, that's a great deal, folks. This is the lost leader that Alex often describes, and today it's $72. That price will no doubt be higher in another week or so. I mean, you have to you alter that price. I remember, you know, it was $60-something a couple weeks ago. You changed that according to the market, right?
Yeah, it has to go up because the price of silver is going up. When I priced the silver dollars at $63, you got to realize silver was at $26 at that time.
Right.
Right now we're looking at $34 silver. What do you think is going to happen in the future? We're in the fall. We have lots of problems. Right now, Germany is expected to go into recession, and they're the ones that have been bailing out Greece. Well, who's going to bail out Germany? The printing press is going to bail out Germany, and we're going to be on the hook because the Fed is tied into the European Union.
Well, plus we've got QE Unlimited now going on, $85 billion a month for how many months? Nobody knows.
Right, exactly, and Ben Bernanke no longer has to bring it up anymore too. He can increase quantitative easing or decrease quantitative easing. He doesn't even have to talk about it. There's not going to be a whole new announcement. We have QE2 on steroids. QE3 is here, and as long as we have, you know, the problems that we have, they're gonna go to the printing press, and it's gonna come right directly out of the value of our currency.
Incredible.
And that's why gold and silver goes up. So.
All right, well, thanks for the update, Ted. It's always great talking to you. The phone number, folks, is 1-800-686-2237 to take advantage of that combo offer of the 2 silver coins, the film, 2 books, the 2 films and a book, or 2 books and a film. The American Dream.
It's 1 book, 2 films,
there we go.
$2 silver. There you go.
There we go. And a partridge in a pear tree. He'll throw that in for you. Thank you, Ted. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you as well.
All right, take that information seriously, folks. Gold and silver is what's going to be around when the fiat currency money system is no longer around. And so that's why I always appreciate Ted dropping in to give us an update on the situation. Gold continues to trend upward. Now, we do have some calls on the line. We're going to go to them in just a minute, but want to encourage callers, if you've got questions for me or things that are on your mind, call us now at 1-800-259-9231. And I am going to get to what I promised, some strategies for protecting yourself from radiation poisoning and MSG. We'll cover those in the next segment. A couple more headlines here real quick. More Americans now commit suicide than are killed in car crashes as a miserable economy takes its toll. This is the story from Daily Mail from out of the UK. Suicide is the cause of more deaths than car crashes. And, of course, you always have to wonder, too, what's the link to the psychiatric drugs, the antidepressants that have suicidal thoughts and violent thoughts as one of their side effects. But clearly the economy has something to do with this as well. We see crime on the rise. Counterfeit gold, as Ted just talked about. We see that on the rise as well. UK hospitals are on the verge of collapse as socialized medicine fails. This is a Natural News article. And this just shows, hey, that socialized medicine system doesn't work long term. Patients aren't any healthier. It just gets more and more expensive until the drug companies loot the entire economy. And here's a story out of RT. Public health officials on alert after new virus detected. Well, this could just be a scare story from the World Health Organization. They say they're on alert after 2 confirmed cases of a new virus in the same family as SARS. So it's like SARS Part 2 coming back to haunt us over and over again, just like in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. It's the WHO SARS Massacre sequel. Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. They're going to keep scaring us until we all go get vaccinated and decide to kill ourselves with GMO. That's the plan. All right. Enough on that. We're going to take some phone calls. We've got Lars and Peter, John, Harry, Dave, all straight ahead. Thank you. We're going to take your calls when we come back here on the Alex Jones Show. Stay with us. Those calls and much more straight ahead. Yeah, we're back in the home stretch here. This is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in for Alex today. Hey, it's good to be back. I've been on kind of a, well, it was supposed to be a break. I was supposed to do some fasting, and that didn't happen. I ended up working on all these other projects, which will be launching soon. But anyway, it's great to be back. Thank you thanks to Alex for having me on, and thank you, the listeners, for supporting me with all your positive comments. I do enjoy bringing you this news and bringing you some interesting perspective. But let's get to something even more interesting now. Let's take some calls. Do we dare? I love taking calls because the callers are so well informed, and also you never know what you're going to get. So let's do that right now. We've got Lars in Denmark on the line with us. Lars, you're live on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, thank you, Adam. I just want to make a quick comment before I have a question about tangerine. The comment is that, here in Denmark, of course, InfoWars is not as big as it is in the States, but I just started a new job a few weeks ago, and out of 4 guys working there, one of them was also a regular listener.
Great.
And that was quite awesome to find out that, even in a small country like Denmark with, 5.5 million people, there was quite a few people who listen. So,
well, it's a global reach, and it's getting bigger every single day. Do you have another question, Lars?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I have a question about, because we tried some tangerine from Longevity.
Yes.
And a family member had a problem after having a gallbladder removed, which we probably shouldn't have done, but now it's out, so we can't do anything about it. But this tangerine actually helped. I took some, and I felt a lot of energy, and my 70-year-old mother started skipping her new naps. She felt a lot of energy, too. And we used it all up and ordered another one. And it got caught in the customs department. Because,
of course.
They wanted to check it. You can make your own decisions here in Denmark, of course.
Right.
So they stopped it because of this glucosamine, which is apparently allowed in Europe. You can take it, of course. They admit it's good for you, but if you import it from the States, then you can't.
Well, Lars, the bottom line is that the European Union especially is so strict on restricting your right to nutritional supplements. It is a tragedy of health. And some of the countries, you can't even get vitamin C shipped into the country without it getting seized, and then you have to pay big fines or just you lose it. It gets confiscated. But thank you for your call, Lars. And also, I do want to mention, for those who have their gallbladders removed, remember, doctors typically don't tell you that the gallbladder has a role in your digestion. Specifically, if you eat dietary fats and you have your gallbladder removed, then you're not going to be able to digest those fats as easily. You need to supplement with some enzymes that can help digest fats. That's part of the role of the gallbladder. Hey, you can't just take organs out of the body and not think something's going to happen, right? So do your homework, get informed. If a doctor wants to remove something from your body, like your gallbladder, or a kidney or something, learn what that does, huh? Kind of a good idea. So thank you for your call, though. Good information. Let's go to Peter in Washington. Peter, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir. What's your comment or question?
A few days ago, or last week, I think it was, you had a report with the man from eFoods on the food crisis, and I just wanted to update it In 1966, Western Islands, which was the publishing arm of the John Birch Society at that time, published a book called Ill Fares the Land, The Famine Planned for America by Dan P. Van Gorder. Now, that's almost 50 years ago. And at that time, it was started with the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933. They didn't get too far. Basically, what they did was they falsely reported that we were having surpluses. And they did that because the production was going up then, but but it was dropping on a per capita basis, and they were importing more and more food. And then they fiddled a little bit with the statistics.
So you're saying that this has been an ongoing agenda for decades then?
And the interesting thing is the agricultural department was run by Henry Wallace Jr., who was a communist and ran against Truman in 1948, claiming that the problem is not the communists, but the communist issue. Now, in the Department of Agriculture...
Hey, Peter, we got to go to break, but I appreciate your call. That's a really good point. Sorry to cut you off there. We got to take a hard break here, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. More calls and more information straight ahead on The Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Long segment here. You are listening to The Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. Let me share this with you before we continue with calls. I promised to give you some information about how to protect yourself from MSG, monosodium glutamate. Now, MSG is an excitotoxin. That's how Dr. Russell Blaylock describes it. He's a neurosurgeon who's an expert in this area. In fact, he's been a guest on this show many times. MSG is found in all kinds of foods, and they hide it using other ingredients, such as yeast extract. So remember that ingredient, okay? Yeast extract. That contains up to about 14% free glutamate, which is a taste enhancer, a chemical taste enhancer. Now, there's a new study, and this study is fascinating in that it offers a possible solution to protecting yourself from MSG. And I think, let's see, it's called Combined Treatment with Capsicum and Resveratrol Enhances Neuroprotection Against Glutamate-Induced Toxicity in Mouse Cerebral Cortical Neurons. In layman's terms, what it means is that they tested glutamate toxicity on the neurons, the brains of mice, and they found that these two substances offer some protection. This is good news, and this is breaking right here on the Alex Jones Show. I'm not aware of anybody else who has covered this, but it means that you can take resveratrol, which has been called a miracle molecule by scientists, and that resveratrol holds real promise for protecting you from the toxic effects of MSG. It's kind of a defensive shield. Now, this hasn't been tested on humans to see if it reduces neurotoxicity of MSG, so some of this is just conjecture, but it has real promise there, and resveratrol has so many benefits for heart health and longevity that I would recommend resveratrol anyway. And that, of course, resveratrol is the molecule that's often famously found in red wine. It's in grapes, especially organic grapes, because this molecule, resveratrol, is produced by the grape plant in response to a fungal infection. So you got to go for organic grapes, you get high resveratrol, and it may protect you from the toxic effects of MSG. And capsicum may also protect you, although that one, you know, that's a hot pepper, so intuitively it would seem like that would make the problem worse. But in fact, the study showed it had a neuroprotective effect. That's very interesting science. Now, in addition to that, I promised to share some thoughts with you on protection from radiation. This is a big deal because of Fukushima, but not just that. We've got the possible future radiation problems. What if nuke power plants across the USA go into meltdown? What if there's a high-altitude EMP weapon detonated over America, for example, takes out the power grid, and it wouldn't be long before some nuclear power facilities start to go into meltdown like they did in Fukushima. What are you going to do then? Well, here are some foods that can help protect you from radiation. And I really want to encourage you to eat these on a regular basis. They're also really healthy for other reasons. Miso is a traditional Japanese food, a soup base. It offers protection from radiation. Probiotics are also very good. Chlorella is a superfood, a microalgae, chlorella. Iodine, of course, as you know, offers protection to the thyroid, which is why the government even recommends potassium iodide pills for protection from radiation poisoning. But you can find iodine in seaweed. So if you can work some seaweed into your diet. Now, me being a guy from the Midwest, I think that sounds crazy. How am I going to work seaweed into my diet? Well, sushi is the easiest way. The nori sheets that the sushi is rolled in, they actually help protect you from radiation poisoning, believe it or not. And also there are internal clays. So some clay that's actually used for detox. You actually ingest the clay, and clay absorbs a lot of toxic elements, not just radiological, but also chemical, and can help clean those out of your body. But always, when you ingest something like clay, please do it under the supervision of a naturopathic physician. Don't just go winging it on this stuff. Get some good information. Hey, read natural health websites and get informed so you know what you're doing. But anyway, those are the protections against radiation and MSG. Now, let's go to the calls, and I hope we have a caller who's going to call about this New York City schools giving out morning after pills to young students without telling their parents. Really? Hope we have a caller on that. John from Washington. John, you're on the air. What's on your mind, man?
Well, what's on my mind is Monsanto, gummy worms, and hogs.
There you go. Sounds like a great buffet.
I want to tell you that I'm a retired ornamental horticulturalist of 21 years, and some of my renewal classes are continuing ongoing education. We took herbicide and pesticide courses, and I know you'll be really surprised about this, but they had these little junior VPs from Monsanto that actually taught the class.
Wow.
And the guy came up there, and it was his practice. He was well known for this, that at the beginning of every year with the new class, he would take a bottle of Roundup, pop the cap on it, pull the metal seal off to prove that it was, hadn't been tampered with, and pour a 1 ounce shot glass full and throw it back and drink it. And this was done to as an example to us as to how safe it was. He taught us how safe it was.
No,
and this is basically
he
the way
couldn't
they
be drinking
taught the
Roundup
back then. And as a result, years later, at the age of 46, I found out that I had atrazine, malathion, and a number of other chemicals in my bone marrow, and spent 2 years trying to get that flushed out and fixed up.
Wow.
So this was the misinformation and disinformation campaign that Monsanto has been foisting on people for all this time.
Well, that's incredible that they infiltrated the education process. I wonder what happened to that guy that was claiming to be chugging shot glasses of Roundup. Any word?
I see him today. I would love to see him today.
He's probably dead.
But I had so many problems approaching the time when I retired because, and now I've got everything from skin problems with my nails. I lost my right eye, and this was all from chemical poisoning. The second thing I want to talk about was that I noticed that you mentioned that deal about feeding the gummy worms to the cattle and such, but there might be a slightly different perspective on that that you might consider. And I have a friend that's in Indiana. Spoke with him, a couple weeks ago, and he said that 70% of the corn crop has failed out in the Midwest and in the corn production areas.
That's right.
And that the 30% that's left over is got a government mandate. They're using it to make ethanol. Well, the cost of corn is so expensive now that using ethanol, which was supposed to lower the cost of gas, is actually making the cost of gas go up because they're using that 30% of the corn that they do have to make ethanol.
Oh, wait a minute. So we're putting our food in our gas tanks, and then we're feeding our cows candy, and then we're injecting little girls with birth control in school, and we're all eating poison GMOs, and this is all called normal? Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, what he told me was that guys are going from Indiana up into the northeast area where they have all the Oreo factories and the candy manufacturers and so forth. I guess they're concentrated up there. At any rate, he said that they don't. It's not that they want to feed this crap to their cows and their pigs. The fact is they don't have anything to feed to them.
Yeah, I get that.
They're going up there and getting tractor-trailer truckloads of Oreo crumbs, like you said, gummy bears, cereals, floor sweepings, the stuff they clean out of the equipment that they make these products with, and bringing that back to feed to the animals, not necessarily to fatten them faster, but just to keep them alive to start with so they don't lose their stock, and because it's got so much corn syrup in it that he says that they're getting at least a small fraction of the nutrition out of the corn, which I argued with him about it.
Right,
the point is well taken.
But wow, well, that's great information, John. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for your call. I mean, hey, I guess in another month, the ranchers, and by the way, I feel for the ranchers. We went through a bad situation here in Central Texas last summer with the fires and the drought here, and ranchers were in a tough situation, but maybe in the Midwest, they can take their cows trick-or-treating and just eat up all the candy that are given out by the households. It might take a while to unwrap all those little gummy bear packages, though, wouldn't it? It's just insane, man. It's insane. We're feeding the cows this food with artificial color in it, this candy. It's not, you almost can't call it food, but good points, John. I'm really glad you shared all that with us. Let's go to another caller, Harry in Pennsylvania. Harry, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Hi, I'd like to know if canola oil is a GE type of food, and should we avoid it?
Most canola oil is genetically engineered, yes, but not all, and hence the need for labeling. Wouldn't you like to know the difference if you're at the store and you're buying canola oil? Wouldn't you like it to say either no GMOs or yes, it contains GMOs so you can make a decision? But yeah, a lot of canola is genetically engineered, and it's used throughout most salad dressings that you buy at the grocery store, another form of hidden food ingredients that you don't know what they are. And of course, canola oil used to be called rapeseed oil before they changed the name for marketing reasons. What do you think about that?
Well, Mike, you're right. In fact, I found out also that even if something says sugar, you have to call and ask them if it is 100% cane sugar or also contains
beet sugar.
Beet sugar. And if it contains beet sugar, are the beets GMO?
That's
so you
right.
can't even be safe by it saying sugar.
You are exactly right, sir. Good point. You're educated, man. I love it. The GMO beets were planted for quite some time. I don't think they're allowed to plant them this year. We should check with Jeffrey Smith on that fact checking. But they're definitely pushing for GMO sugar beets to be allowed again. And they want everything to be GMO. That's what they want. Everything. Everything GMO. So thank you for your call. Very good points there, Harry. Let's go to Dave in Florida. Dave, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Mike, thank you for all your great work on the healthy foods. I got a question about synthetic vitamins and minerals.
Yeah.
I'm purchasing the longevity products, and my sister also works in supplemental vitamins, and she was telling me that some of the stuff has acetate, palatate, or isolate in it. And could you tell us if that synthetic stuff is bad for you or if it's actually good for you? And about HCl.
Okay, well, in my view, I always prefer to get nutrients from food, and I love food-based nutrition. The longevity product is a great supplement, especially for those who have been nutritionally deficient for a long period of time, and there is benefit to them. But I personally like to get food-based nutrients from superfoods and things like that. One of the great benefits of longevity, by the way, though, is the minerals, the mineral elements that are in it. A lot of elements that you normally aren't going to get the trace minerals from. And I know some people have criticized that there are trace levels of some light metals in there, but the level is so trace. Look, people, you got to understand it's the dose that is either the benefit or the poison. I mean, I exposed a product last year, a detox product that was 1,000 parts per million of aluminum, and it was dissolved in sulfuric acid, and people were drinking that and taking that. And I said, that's insane. That can't be safe. But if you're getting, a small amount of aluminum in a natural matrix that's full of all the other elements, that's actually perfectly safe. And as I understand it, those elements are from plants. So in my view, I would prefer to get vitamins from plant and whole food forms. And so there are lots of choices for that. I don't know everything about longevity products, but I'm sure someone else here will be able to answer those questions in more detail. Does that help?
Yeah, great answer. How about the HCl?
Well, it depends on the source. Sometimes the source for HCl can be from animals, which I wouldn't necessarily want to take. I'm not familiar with what source is being used in longevity. I apologize. I haven't gone line by line on that product to know exactly what's in it. But the results speak for themselves. That's for sure. I mean, people here in the office get fantastic results on the product. I'm not affiliated with the company, and I don't promote it or sell it. So I'm sort of an independent point of view on that. But you can't argue with the results. A lot of people are getting benefits from it. No question about that.
Okay, I was thinking of growing organic food on my property. I'm a retired military member, and I was just wondering, what do you think about the government's rules about home farming and stuff?
Well, I'm a little freaked out by some of their rules. They're trying to criminalize farming and home gardening, and we've seen the attacks on Julie Bass in Oak Park, Michigan, for example. The woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, whose garden was destroyed by the local authorities. They don't want you to be able to grow your own food. Now, and remember, your first question was about really where should you get your nutrients? Ideally, and I've always said this, and I will continue to say this, even if I promote a supplement, you should always get your nutrients first choice from food that you grow yourself. Supplementation is always the backup plan. It's always the next best choice. But it's so much better to get it from supplementation than to try to just eat the standard diet, which is nutrient depleted. So remember, real food that you grow at home is always, always, always your number one choice of live nutrition. Supplementation is always just the second backup plan to bring you the things that you can't grow because of time or because of soils or climate or whatever the case may be. Does that help answer your question?
Very much so. Amen, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Really appreciate that. All right, let's go to Pat in California. Pat, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I want to make two quick points. In regards to GMO, I want people to remember, if they remember the situation with the bee populations dying off, they found out 10 years ago in France, the farmers did tests on certain pesticides, and they realized that the bees were dying off when they were exposed to these pesticides. Well, it's interesting because it was even in the New York Times, March of this year. I asked people to look. I was surprised it was in the New York Times because they're so corporatist. But it says 2 studies point to common pesticides as a culprit in declining bee colonies.
Yeah.
And I want to tie that to GMOs because it's the same thing. You know how for years they always told us, yeah, pesticides are fine, they're safe, don't worry about it. And, and we know without bees, our plants, nothing will grow.
That's right.
I mean, that's when we have to realize how devastating this is. But the pesticide industry keeps pumping money into our politicians.
Well, you're right, Pat. The common thread here is that we're always lied to by these so-called corporate scientists. They lie about pesticides. They lied about DDT. They lied about big tobacco. And by the way, the really toxic stuff in the cigarettes is not the tobacco. It's all the chemical additives that they put in there. Just smoking actual tobacco isn't nearly as bad for you as all the other things. But they lied to us about all that science over the years. And you're right. You're right to ask, Pat, are they lying to us again about GMO? We think they are. Are they lying to us about pesticides? Are they putting at risk the entire human race? Because as you hinted there, if the pollinators are destroyed, then we're history. About 1/3 of all our food is pollinated by honeybees. If they don't make it, we don't make it. It's a big deal. I appreciate your question, Pat. Very good question. We're going to break. We'll be right back after this. So stay with us. A few more calls straight ahead. All right, I love taking calls. Our callers are so informed here. The listeners to the Alex Jones Show are just really the most informed listeners on all subjects. I mean, the economy, politics, and now health and GMOs more and more. I'm so happy that Alex has been covering that in the last couple of years at an increased pace. I remember, I guess about 4 years ago or so, Alex wasn't really covering that much in the realm of health, but he's really covered more and more of it, and aspartame and the genetic engineering of how aspartame is created. It's exciting. Because as I've said on this show, we got to support nutrition for patriots, folks. We who believe in the Constitution, who believe in this republic, who believe in the American people and the ingenuity and the innovation that made us a great nation and can restore this great nation, we've got to be healthy. You know, I'm famous for showing this this jar. I always have a jar of superfoods here every time because this is what I eat and drink every day. This one is avocado with a bunch of superfoods in it. My own little cacao, that's chocolate for you, recipe, chocolate, avocado, you name it. It's food-based. Like that caller just asked, should you take vitamins or should you get your nutrition from food? Well, for me, it's both. I get a lot of my nutrition from food, and then I supplement for trace minerals and all these other things. So it's a combination, but grow as much food as you can. Let's continue with some more callers. Chris from Kentucky. Chris, you're on the air on the Alex Jones Show. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
I was wondering if you might speak to how exactly the environmental movement, namely the production of ethanol corn or the switchover from food corn to energy corn, has basically proliferated and accelerated the cause of the GMO foods in ways of...
Great question. No, I get it, man. Great question. Great question. I am absolutely incensed at the environmental movement for not speaking out more against GMO. The environmental movement has been hijacked by globalists. You know that. They're not really pro-environment. What they're all about is not really addressing the real threats to the environment, because I'm an environmentalist in a legitimate way. I don't want the environment to be polluted with genetic pollution through GMOs. All right, I don't want mercury in the environment from dentistry. You know how many tons of mercury are tossed down the drain at dental offices, or even when people die and they're cremated, how much mercury goes into the air because of their mercury fillings? I mean, those are real environmental issues. The loss of soils, the use of Roundup that sterilizes the soils, the loss of probiotics in the soils. These are real environmental issues, but the environmental, I should say the traditional, or let's say the status quo environmental movement does not address these things. Where is the denouncement of GMOs in the environmental movement? I got to say right here on the air, on the record, until the environmental movement denounces GMOs, you're a fraud, okay? You're not for the environment unless you speak out against GMOs. GMOs are the greatest threat to our environment. It is a self-replicating pollution. That's worse than chemical pollution. That's worse than the oil spill in the Gulf. It is worse because it self-replicates. You want to be a real environmentalist? Get a line against GMOs. That's save the planet for human life. And, oh, man, I do get frustrated on that point. Let's go to the next call, but thank you, Chris. I appreciate your call. Dan in Virginia. Dan, you're on the air. What's your question, sir? Real quick.
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. I'm a retired crop duster, and I used to use a chemical called Furidan. And
only got a few seconds.
Okay, when I was using this chemical, it's got a very pronounced smell to it. I opened a bottle of Mucinex.
All right, I'm sorry, man. I got to cut you off. I'm sorry. We're out of time. Thank everybody for listening. Retransmission begins now. Thanks for having me on. Been a pleasure being here. Sorry to cut you off there with that call.
Thank you for listening to GCN.
Take care, everybody.